Hi there everyone, my name is Lacey Long, and today we're going to be making fully loaded baked Phaux-tatoes. You heard that right, Phaux-tatoes with a PH for Philadelphia cream cheese. I'm also calling them Phaux-tatoes because the main ingredient actually isn't a potato, it's cauliflower. I don't know if anyone out there has some kids, or in my case, a husband, who doesn't really like their veggies. But if you know someone like that, then this is the side dish for you. It sneaks some veggies in there while still being a tasty, creamy dish that everyone's sure to love. We're going to start out with our cauliflower, which we just want to chop up nice and roughly so that we can make our cauliflower mash. So ladies, this really does not need to look pretty at all because we're just going to be steaming this and then pureeing it up. We're hoping to get about 4 cups. Let's see. We're almost there. We just need a little bit more, and after that we'll pop it in our steamer. Now we have 4 cups of fully chopped up cauliflower florets. We're just going to pop it in our steamer bowl and then set this to steam. On my steamer, this takes about 14 minutes, but feel free to do this on your stovetop. You can even do it in your microwave, but I wouldn't recommend that. Now we can get started on our potatoes. Now, you might think I'm crazy for thinking I can do baked potatoes in under an hour, but I have a special trick. What we're going to do is start these out in the microwave. You can microwave your baked potatoes for about 10 minutes for 8-ounce potatoes. We're using 10-ounce potatoes, so we're going to microwave these for 12 minutes. You just want to poke some little air holes in, and as soon as they're microwaved, you're all set to pop them in the oven. We're going to preheat our oven to 500 degrees because that finishes them off so that the skins get nice and crispy. We're back, and our potatoes are magically microwaved. Now, mine are still a little hot to the touch, so you might want to let them cool off a little bit because this next step is really fun to let little ones jump in on. What we're going to do is take a basting brush and some olive oil and just pour the olive oil right over our potatoes. We want to get a nice even coat. So we'll just paint the olive oil right onto our potatoes. You can see how this job would be really fun for kids to jump in on, but like I said, these are still a little bit hot. We just want to get a nice even coat and then we can pop these in the oven. We're going to pop them in the oven at 500 degrees for about 10 minutes, just so they get nice and crispy on the outside. Our next step is to get started with our cauliflower mash. We're going to start chopping up our dill. We're hoping to get about 2 tablespoons of fresh dill. If you're going to be using dry dill, which is totally okay, go ahead and cut that down by half. 2 tablespoons is going to be roughly 2 healthy pinches. So, looks like we've got enough here. Our next ingredient is our super yummy Philadelphia cream cheese. I have an 8-ounce block. We're going to use about half of that. And I'm taking the half that we're using and just cutting it up into cubes so that it'll mix really nicely in our cauliflower mash. Our yummy cauliflower is all done steaming. Whew, nice and warm. We're going to pop this into our food processor. And next we're going to throw in our ingredients that we've prepared, our Philadelphia cream cheese and about 2 tablespoons of dill. There we go. We're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. This you can do to taste. I like to use a nice flaky sea salt. My dad is like obsessed with salts and uses all different kinds. This is a Himalayan pink flake, but you can totally just use your regular table salt at home. What's nice when you use sea salts is you can use a little bit less and you still get that nice punch of flavor. So we're going to puree this up and we'll be back in a second. After just about a minute of pureeing, look at this cauliflower. It's got that delicious creamy texture. If this isn't creamy enough for you, you can add a little bit more cream cheese at this time. I don't necessarily think it needs it, and as Paula always says, you can always add more in. You can't take anything out. So be sure if you really want to add any more cream cheese. But I think the amount that we used is great to get that delicious mashed potato-like consistency. What I'm doing now is I'm just popping my cauliflower into a pre-warmed up bowl, and we're going to pop this into a keep warm oven. We don't want our cauliflower mash to get cold while we're prepping our potatoes and other ingredients. The next step is to make our little mashed potato boats, or shells, whatever you want to call them. What we're going to do is cut our potatoes in half. Whew, so hot, but nice and crispy on the outside. We're going to cut these in half, and then we're going to do a fun little trick. We're going to take a little paring knife or steak knife and just score these around the edges. We want to make sure that we make a nice little bowl, but we also want to make sure we leave enough potato on the side so that we can go ahead and fill these up without them falling apart completely. I'm just finishing scooping out the innards of our potatoes. One thing that's a nice little trick is you can do these almost like they're avocados and score them along the middle as well, just so you can scoop it out with a regular fork or spoon. It makes it a little bit easier. Now we're going to make sure our toppings are all ready. We're using bacon, sour cream, blue cheese crumbles, and some cherry tomatoes. I just want to point out that right now I'm using fake bacon because I happen to be a vegetarian, but feel free to use real bacon or Bacos. Your goal is to just make sure it's nice and crunchy, not chewy. The other thing I'm going to point out is that we're using blue cheese today, but if you prefer, go ahead and use cheddar. It's a little more traditional, or you can even use pepper jack, which would add a nice spicy zing. Now I have a trick to show you with our cherry tomatoes. What we're going to do is take about 6 or 7 cherry tomatoes and place them between 2 lids. I'm using some Pyrex lids to my little Pyrex glass bowls, but you can use takeout lids, butter tub lids, whatever works for you. Then we're going to use a small serrated knife. I'm actually using a steak knife because that works pretty well. And we're going to press down on our little tomato sandwich and slice through each of our tomatoes. This helps us get a nice dice in without tomatoes rolling all over your cutting board. My daddy taught me this trick. Now that our toppings are all prepped, we're going to get started with loading up our potato shells. I have our delicious cauliflower goodness that I'm just going to pop in, and I'm using a little mini spatula with a nice spoon. You can use a tablespoon, whatever works for you, but using a little mini spatula helps to get all the cauliflower from around the sides of the bowl. Once these are all loaded up, we'll get started with topping them off. I like to start off with the blue cheese crumbles because they get nice and melty into your cauliflower mash since that's still warm. So I'm just going to pop that in first. And then it's a good idea to go ahead and add your sour cream because that helps all the other ingredients stick together. We'll just do a nice little dollop on each of these and then we'll be all set. Some bacon crumbles, and some sweet cherry tomatoes. Woof. And this is okay if it's messy, because this is a really nice everyday down-home treat. This isn't something that you'd serve for fancy company. Oh my goodness, I just love that. It's missing something though. I think this dish would actually be great with a little punch of color on top. So I'm going to add on some scallions. I just did a nice rough chop and I'm sprinkling those over our fully loaded Phaux-tatoes. And now they're ready to eat. These look so good. I can't wait to try some. Okay, let's give this a whirl. My goodness. These fully loaded baked Phaux-tatoes are the perfect side dish for any of your non-veggie loving family members or friends. You're really going to enjoy serving this. This is Lacey Long wishing you peace, love, and all things tasty. Bye now. See you next time.